Neither the clang of metal nor the storm outside warned of the disaster waiting inside his own home. His hands were bloodied from the shingles, his back ached after the shift, his eyes were closing from exhaustion. And in the kitchen, his wife was scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. A few hours later, he would wake to her stare, cold as steel, and trash bags by the door. No explanation, no voice. The house where he paid the bills, patched the roof, and pushed himself to the edge suddenly became a trap. Trust turned out to be a lie. Everyone played a part, even the stepson he tried to reach. Thrown out, robbed, betrayed, humiliated. But there was one thing they didn't calculate. The house wasn't theirs. It was his. And what followed wasn't revenge. It was justice. Quiet, legally precise, cold as a blade, every step measured, every word documented, and the ending would thunder louder than any gunshot. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So let's get started. In retrospect, the warnings were all flashing bright. I just chose to ignore them. It's funny how the truth only sharpens after it's too late. I'm Ryan, 35 years old. Up until a couple of months ago, I had a wife, Erica, 37, with a teenage son, Carter, from her earlier marriage. From the very beginning, it was clear Carter wanted nothing to do with me. The kid never tried to hide his dislike. I did my best not to let it get under my skin. After all, I was stepping into a role no teenager welcomes. I gave him room, paid more than my fair share of his needs, and told myself I was being a stand-up guy. If I'm honest, I might have come across as pushy, especially when it came to budgeting. I stressed over expenses and often pressed Erica to dial back on her spending habits. Even so, I wasn't ready for how everything would unravel. The night it all came crashing down had already started on the wrong foot. I'd just clocked out after 12 relentless hours welding on the factory floor. The pounding of metal still rang in my skull. My entire body ached, ankles especially, and all I could think about was sleep. Then, at about 3:30 a.m., my phone vibrated with a message from Erica. Rain's pouring in through the ceiling, living room's soaked. Fix it. I blinked at the screen, read it again and again while rubbing the sting out of my eyes. Was I pissed? Absolutely. But this was our house. Letting water leak inside could cost us. So, dragging my dead-tired body to the truck, I drove through a storm that sounded like the sky was hurling rocks at the windshield. I cursed the entire ride there. Every red light was a fight not to fall asleep. My back was stiff, eyes barely open. I was running on nothing but fumes. I pulled up just before 4, yanked a ladder from the garage, grabbed some tools, and braced for the chill. Each breath was like smoke as I climbed up into the chaos above. The wind hit me like a slap, and the rain felt like it was coming sideways. I lost count of how many times I nearly slipped off that roof. My palms were shredded from gripping the shingles, blood and water mixing on my skin. After nearly an hour of struggling, I found the problem. A few shingles had come loose. I hammered them back into place, smeared tar over the gaps, and ignored the burning in my hands. By the time I came down, I felt like I'd been in a bar fight. Every part of me throbbed with fatigue, and I could barely keep upright. The only thing I wanted was to collapse into sleep. When I walked inside, Erica was by the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone. She wore pajama bottoms, looked freshly showered. Meanwhile, I stood there dripping, still soaked from the roof. Leaks patched, I told her, voice dry and hoarse. But we'll probably need someone to check the attic. Might have soaked the insulation. She barely looked up. Okay, she replied, flat as a dial tone. No thank you. No concern. Just nothing. The coldness of it hit harder than the storm. I brushed it off, blaming the late hour or our usual stress over money. I muttered something about sleep and staggered to the bedroom, collapsing face first onto the bed. Didn't even peel off my wet clothes. My final thought before sleep swallowed me. At least that's done. But the real disaster was only just beginning. When I woke up, sunlight was creeping through the blinds. My phone read 9:30 a.m., 4 hours of sleep. Tops. Erica stood over me, arms folded, jaw clenched tight. In the doorway, Carter leaned with a smug look that made my stomach turn. Still groggy and sore from the night before, I sat up. "What's going on?" I rasped, reaching for my phone, my brain foggy with confusion. Something felt off. Then I saw the trash bags. 3 black ones, stuffed to the brim and propped up near the closet. My clothes were spilling out, shirts, jeans, everything. Erica's stare didn't budge. "Get up," she said. "You're out." I blinked in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" "I'm done," she said, calm as ice. "You're holding me back. I'm not doing this anymore. I deserve better, and I found someone who is." Her words were knives, each syllable sharp and final. Then her eyes flicked toward the fridge, where a piece of paper was taped up. From the bedroom, I could make out the large letters spelling my name. The note read, "You're dead weight. Get out. I'm find a real man." That line hit me like a sucker punch. The grammar was bad, but the message was clear. I sat there stunned, numb from the inside out. "What is this?" I asked, voice barely audible. "You still don't get it?" Carter chimed in, chuckling. He tossed my truck keys onto the bed like he was tossing scraps. "Mom says you can cry somewhere else. Don't bother coming back." Then I spotted my wallet, left open on the nightstand, empty. The $200 I'd stashed, gone. My eyes snapped back to them, a wave of anger rising fast. "You took my money?" Erica shrugged, unfazed. Her face didn't change at all. "Shared finances? Spare me," she scoffed, her tone bouncing off the walls like a slap. "I've spent too long cleaning up after you." "Cleaning up after me?" I shot back, my voice betraying the shake in my chest. "I've been the one holding this place together, covering the bills, pulling double shifts, running on fumes." "Spare me the martyr act," she snapped. "I'm done. I've moved on, with someone who actually has prospects, not some washed-up burnout scraping by. You've got 5 minutes to get your stuff and leave, or I'm calling the cops." Her words hit like a punch to the ribs. Someone else? That explained the smug silence, the sudden indifference. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Of course, that's what had shifted. Carter stepped in from the hallway, his mouth curling into a cruel little smile. "I introduced them," he said, like he was proud. "My boss from the garage. He's been seeing Mom for months. Guy's loaded, not like you." I stared at him, too stunned to form words. "You set your mom up with your boss?" He shrugged, casual as anything. "Yeah, Sean's an upgrade. If I'd had any fight left, I might have swung, but I was already spent. My left hand still throbbed from patching the roof earlier. I forced myself upright, legs barely cooperating. "Erica, can we just talk this through?" I asked, stepping toward the door. "If we're done, you're gone. Now!" she screamed, voice cracking with fury. That was the end of it. No discussion, no chance to explain, just finality. I staggered to the bedroom, blindly stuffing clothes into trash bags, my mind looping a single nauseating thought. She didn't just leave. She planned this. Carter loitered in the hallway, holding up his phone, camera rolling. "Just in case you lose it," he said. "Need evidence." My fists clenched so hard my knuckles popped, but I didn't give them what they wanted. No explosion, no scene. I just walked past him into the living room, pain flaring in my back, dried blood still crusting under my nails. There it was again, that damn note on the fridge, staring me down. "You're dead weight. Get out. I'm finding a real man." I ripped it down, crushed it in my fist. Turning around one last time, I saw her glaring, arms folded tight. Carter beside her, that same victorious smirk glued to his face. I wanted to scream that this was my house too. But then a chilling thought crept in. Had we ever put both names on the deed? Things had moved so fast after the wedding. Now here I was, dragging garbage bags to the door like a stranger, while my chest felt like it was being torn in two. The door slammed behind me. A deadbolt clicked. Just like that, in 10 minutes I'd gone from husband to homeless. Later that day, I parked behind a 24-hour grocery store. The sun was shining, but I couldn't feel a thing. I kept checking my phone. Nothing. No calls, no texts, just silence. I nibbled on stale crackers, praying I'd wake up and realize this was all some fever-drenched nightmare. But the cuts on my hands told a different story. I tried to sleep in the truck, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw Erica's stone-cold stare and Carter's smug little grin. There was no rest. The next morning, I used a free pass at the gym just to shower. I stared into the mirror afterward, water dripping down my face. Puffy eyes, stubble I hadn't bothered shaving, and a hollow look that said it all. A middle-aged man who'd lost everything. The cruel irony? I'd been the one budgeting every penny. Telling Erica we didn't need another pair of shoes or some flashy new gadget. Maybe I'd gone overboard sometimes. But what did it matter now? I was broke, tossed aside. The second night in the truck was even worse. My back screamed in protest, my only warmth a thin blanket that didn't do much. I watched headlights sweep across the windshield, unable to escape her voice echoing in my skull. I found someone else. Sometime past 2 a.m., I finally nodded off, only to be woken by a knock on the window. A security guard with a flashlight motioned for me to leave. "No overnight stays," he said. Muttering under my breath, I drove off to another lot, dead tired. When morning hit, my phone buzzed. A notification from the bank. The joint account? Wiped clean. She'd drained it. Of course she had. Anger roared in my chest. Years of careful saving. All those sacrifices. Gone like smoke. That day at work passed in a haze. I could barely stay upright. Wesley, one of the only guys at the shop I genuinely liked, pulled me aside during lunch. "Man, you look like hell. What's going on?" "Nothing," I muttered, but my voice cracked. He didn't buy it, kept pressing until I spilled. The argument, the eviction, living in my truck. His eyes widened. "Dude, come stay at my place. Seriously, you can't be sleeping in your truck." I didn't want to impose, but I had no other cards left to play, and that's how I ended up in Wesley's tiny living room, sleeping on a noisy pull-out, my trash bags piled in a corner like someone else's forgotten life. By the third night, something shifted. A flicker of focus cut through the fog. I had to find out. Was my name even on the deed? The house had been in my name for years, ever since my grandfather passed it down to me. I was pretty sure the deed only listed me as the owner, even though I'd never updated it after getting married. If that was still accurate, then Erica had no legal grounds to keep me out. A week later, I ran into Sabrina, Erica's cousin, at a gas station. She had always kept me at arm's length, never going out of her way to be friendly. But something about her demeanor that day felt different. She looked shaken, like she wanted to vanish. After a few awkward moments, she blurted, "I'm sorry about all of this. Erica's been planning to push you out for a long time. She's been telling everyone you're useless." She paused, then dropped another blow. "She's been seeing someone else, for months now." My chest tightened. I managed to respond in a low voice. "Yeah, I heard. It's Carter's boss, right?" Sabrina nodded nervously, glancing around like someone might be listening. Then she dropped the hammer. "That leak in the house that night? It wasn't accidental. Erica had rigged it with a garden hose. She figured I'd be too exhausted from overnight shifts and fixing the roof to question it. Sabrina told me Erica even laughed about it at a family gathering, boasting that I'd never catch on. "I should have warned you," she whispered, staring at the ground. That was the moment something inside me snapped into place. This wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated. She hadn't just hurt me, she had humiliated me, on purpose. That same day, I called Frank Mulligan. Wesley had mentioned him before, said he was sharp and dependable. Frank had the kind of presence that made people listen, silver-haired, immaculately dressed, and sharp as a blade. I brought him the deed, and after scanning through it, he gave me a firm nod. Because Erica and I had never combined assets after the wedding, and the property had come to me through inheritance, it was mine alone. Frank's eyes narrowed when he saw the details. In this state, he said, inherited property stays separate if it's kept that way. You've got a clean, strong claim. Then he uncovered something worse. Erica had taken out a $25,000 loan using the house as collateral and forged my signature to do it. She'd been flaunting renovation updates online and even bought Carter a new car. That flashy ride suddenly made sense. Meanwhile, I was crashing on Wesley's couch. That was the last straw for me. Frank didn't even try to hide his anger. That's straight-up fraud, he said. We can absolutely take action. I didn't hesitate. Go for it. Frank moved quickly. First step, serve her an eviction notice. Since the deed listed me as the sole owner, I had every legal right to reclaim the house. Next up was a civil case for the forged loan. Don't say anything yet, Frank cautioned. We need the element of surprise. So I kept my head down. I cut off every financial tie we had, closed our joint accounts, shut down credit cards, reset every password. I braced myself for what was coming. The morning the eviction was to be delivered, I barely slept. My nerves were shot. I trailed behind the sheriff's patrol car as it pulled into the driveway, heart pounding so loud it felt like it might burst. Carter opened the door first, wearing gym shorts and looking half asleep, shirtless and bleary-eyed. Erica showed up a few seconds later, wrapped in a robe. Her confusion vanished the moment she saw me, replaced instantly by anger. "What the hell is this?" she snapped, voice already rising. The sheriff remained composed. "Ma'am," he said, "you are being officially evicted. You and your son must vacate the premises within 48 hours. He handed her the paperwork. "This property is legally owned by Ryan. This order is in effect immediately." For a moment, she looked stunned. Then her face turned scarlet with fury. "This is my house," she shrieked. "You can't just throw me out like this." Frank stepped in calmly, unshaken. "Actually, the deed lists Ryan as the sole owner, and we have evidence you committed forgery to take out a loan against the property." He looked her squarely in the eye. "You need to leave." Carter puffed up his chest and marched toward me, face twisted in anger. "Who the hell do you think you are?" he growled. "You think showing up here changes anything?" I didn't flinch. "You both kicked me out," I said, voice like ice. "What you didn't know is that I still legally own this place. It's time for you to go." Erica's face was mottled with rage. She turned to the sheriff, her voice climbing into hysteria. "He's harassing me. He's always tried to control me. This is abuse." The sheriff cut her off, firm and unbothered. "Ma'am, please refer to the eviction order." She snatched the document and scanned it, growing more frantic with every line she read. Then she shot me a glare full of pure hatred. "You worthless piece of garbage," she spat. "I should have left you years ago. Where the hell am I supposed to go now? You can't just—" "You've got 48 hours, the sheriff said, his tone final. "If you're still here after that, we'll return with enforcement." He leaned in, his voice a hiss like a drawn blade. "Don't make this more painful than it needs to be." Carter jabbed a finger toward me, that smug grin crawling back onto his face like a reflex. "You'll come begging when the silence gets too loud," he snarled. "Mom only stayed because she pitied you. You'll wish you'd handled this differently. Just wait." I felt the anger coil tight inside me, but Frank's words echoed in my head. "Keep calm, always." I bit down on the fire, forced a cold, measured smile, and locked eyes with him. 48 hours, I said flatly. Whatever's still here after that goes in the trash, including your precious gaming rig, which, by the way, I paid for." He lunged, knuckles white, but the sheriff slid between us, hand resting near his holster. "That's enough," he said, calm but firm. Carter froze, chest heaving. Off to the side, Erica's expression crumpled from rage into a desperate kind of grief, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. "Ryan," she said, voice shaking. 7 years of marriage. You can't just throw me out like this." I swallowed hard, remembering nights spent alone in my truck, the ache of betrayal still raw. "You did the same to me," I said evenly. "Changed the locks, took my ID and cash. We're square now." I turned and walked away, her curses chasing after me like echoes in a canyon. My chest thudded with a messy beat, part remorse, part relief, but I pushed the guilt down. They made their decisions. Just like clockwork, the flood of messages started that afternoon. Carter and Erica lit up my phone, first with venom, then with pleas, and then back again to threats. I forwarded every one of them to Frank. By the next morning, I had 47 missed calls. Erica's voice messages spun wildly between "you'll pay for this" and "please, Ryan, we've got nowhere else to go." I sent one reply: "All communication goes through my lawyer." Then I blocked her number. Exactly 48 hours after the sheriff's first visit, I returned. Frank rode shotgun, and the sheriff followed close behind in his cruiser. My palms stuck to the steering wheel. I hated the drama, but I needed closure. To my surprise, a U-Haul sat parked in the driveway. Erica stood on the porch, eyes swollen from crying. She looked at me with a venom that nearly made me flinch. Whatever sympathy I might have had evaporated. "You son of a bitch," she hissed as I passed. I didn't answer. I walked inside, needing to assess the damage for myself. It was worse than I had imagined. Shattered glass littered the floors, furniture flipped over, the walls stained with patches of half-finished paint. The kitchen cabinets had been torn off their hinges, like some angry project begun out of spite, never meant to be finished. The sheriff reminded them that nothing bolted down could be taken. Appliances, light fixtures, those stayed. "They're mine," Erica snapped, gesturing toward the stove. She knew better. We both did. Those appliances were bought with money she stole, opened a loan in my name without me knowing. She had no legal claim to any of it. I poked through drawers and closets, looking for anything meaningful they might have taken. A few sentimental items were missing, family photos, small keepsakes, probably taken out of spite. But the foundation, the bones of the house, remained. That was something, at least. Still, 5 open holes punched through the drywall turned my stomach. Rage and sadness battled inside me like a storm. I stepped out into the fresh air. Erica came after me, tears pouring freely now. "Ryan, don't do this. I'm your wife. Doesn't that mean something?" I met her gaze, and just like that, the memory hit me like a slap, the note she'd left behind. "You're a burden. I found someone better. Get out." And her face that day, carved from stone and contempt. "You picked your path," I said, my voice hollow. The sheriff moved between us once more, firm but gentle. Something in Erica shifted. Maybe she realized it really was over. Her sob tore through the air as she stumbled back toward the truck. Carter was nowhere to be seen, probably off licking his wounds or admiring that overpriced car he loved so much. Whatever the case, they left. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the house was mine again. I dropped to my knees in the middle of the empty living room, staring at the scuffed-up hardwood. My heart beat a rhythm I didn't recognize, somewhere between freedom and exhaustion. "It's over," I whispered, tears prickling behind my eyes. The silence rang louder than any shout. I pulled out my phone and called Wesley. "Bring pizza," I told him. "We've got a project." That weekend, Wesley and a few guys from work showed up. We patched the walls, hauled out broken furniture, scrubbed every surface. They kept saying I was lucky to be rid of her, that Erica had finally shown her true colors. Maybe they were right. Still, it felt like a part of me had been ripped away. 7 years gone in a blink. A few days later, Erica's sister, Alexandra, stopped by. She told me Carter and Erica were holed up in her basement. Apparently, her own marriage was circling the drain. Her husband, Stetson, was a control freak, making life miserable for everyone under that roof. I raised an eyebrow. So much for Erica's dream life. Now she was stuck under the thumb of someone even more toxic than me, if that was possible. Alexandra said she wanted out too. I gave her a list of resources, helped connect her with a local women's shelter. If nothing else, this whole mess had taught me the value of planning for the worst. The next couple of weeks passed in stillness. In the evenings, I busied myself patching up the damage to the walls and trying to undo the disaster of a paint job Erica had begun and never finished. Still, rest was hard to come by. Most nights I'd jolt awake, soaked in sweat, haunted by visions of Erica or Carter looming over me, spitting venom. But with each dawn, I felt a little more stable, until everything came apart again. Erica had made some half-hearted attempts to secure a new place, but her credit was wrecked beyond repair. Her scams were finally catching up with her. The loan agency wasn't backing down. They'd begun legal proceedings. As for her flashy boyfriend Sean, he was long gone. According to Sabrina, he vanished the moment Erica brought up the stolen money and the eviction threat. No surprise there. If Erica thought she'd found some kind of savior in him, she was delusional. One morning, as I sat on the porch with a coffee in hand, a tow truck pulled up with no warning. I was confused at first, until it clicked. They were there to seize property bought with the fraudulent loan. From down the street, I saw Carter charging toward the house, yelling, "You can't take that! That's ours!" The tow truck driver didn't flinch. He flashed some documents and kept at it, starting with a nearly new washer. Carter's face turned red with fury as he hurled himself at the truck, shouting threats. "Touch that and I'll kill you!" he roared. The driver calmly warned that the cops would be contacted. I didn't wait. I called the sheriff myself, nerves on edge. Right then, Erica screeched into the driveway, her voice piercing. "You've got to stop them, Ryan," she cried. "You can't let this happen." I stared at her, cold and firm. "I can't stop it. Everything was bought illegally. It's all being taken back." The glare she gave me could have peeled wallpaper. Then, out of nowhere, she stormed up to the sheriff, who'd just arrived, and shoved him with both hands. "This is my house," she howled. "Those are my things. He's manipulating everything. It's all him." The sheriff stumbled back, his expression darkening. In a flash, he grabbed her arm and twisted it behind her. "That's assaulting an officer," he snapped. She kicked and struggled, tears streaking her face. "You disgusting pig," she screamed. "You don't know who you're messing with," she shrieked, as Carter tried to run to her aid. But 2 deputies jumped in and pinned him quickly. The scene devolved into a chaotic mess, with Erica face down in the dirt, hands cuffed behind her back. It wasn't just ugly. It was tragic. She kicked and flailed, shouting, "Get off me! You'll pay for this!" But the officers didn't flinch. I stood frozen, emotionless, watching as they lifted her up and shoved her, still yelling and spitting, into the back of a squad car. Later, I heard she spent a couple of nights in jail before someone bailed her out. There was a time I might have felt sorry for her. But now, all I felt was an empty ache in my chest. She made her choices. Now she was paying the price. You'd think that getting locked up, losing her home, and being dumped by her boyfriend would be a wake-up call. But she just didn't get it. I changed the locks, installed a new security system. Still, sleep was elusive. I had this persistent sense of being watched. I tried to convince myself it was just nerves, until one night, just after 2 a.m., the sound of glass breaking jolted me upright. Heart pounding, I leapt from bed and opened my bedside drawer. My fingers closed around my Magnum revolver. I was shaking as I stepped into the hallway. Downstairs, Muffled voices echoed, tense, whispering fast. I flicked on the flashlight mounted to the gun. Each step creaked as I made my way down. My breath caught in my throat. In the living room stood Erica and Carter, rifling through my things. The back window was shattered, shards glittering on the floor. Carter gripped a crowbar. Erica was tearing open drawers like she was searching for something. Maybe cash, maybe documents. Who knows? "Don't move," I shouted, the flashlight beam locking on them. My hands were trembling so violently I thought I might drop the gun. Erica spun toward me, eyes wide, hair a tangled mess. She looked feral, like a cornered animal. "Ryan," she gasped, "please just lower the gun." "We only came to grab some personal stuff I left," she pleaded. I laughed, sharp, hollow, humorless. The adrenaline made my chest tighten. "At 2 in the damn morning, with a crowbar, you smashed my window." Carter stepped closer, raising the tool. "Hand over the money," he snarled. "We lost everything because of you. I know you've got it stashed." I gripped the revolver tighter, my voice low and rough. "Back up, Carter, I'm warning you." He didn't stop. His eyes were wild, unhinged. I fired into the ceiling. The blast was thunderous. Chunks of plaster rained down. My ears rang. Erica screamed, stumbling back in terror. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she shrieked. "You nearly got us killed." My chest felt like it might explode. My breath caught somewhere between panic and fury. Still, I kept the magnum trained on them. "Put down the crowbar," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Both of you, don't move." Carter's eyes locked on the jagged hole in the ceiling, his face drained of color. He slowly let the crowbar slip from his fingers. It hit the floor with a sharp clang. Erica crumbled to her knees, sobbing and clutching her head. "You're out of your mind," she choked. "You'd really point a gun at your own family?" "You're not my family anymore," I answered, my tone like ice. "Not after everything you've done." "You abandoned me," I continued, bitterness curling around each word. "You forged my name. You tried to take everything I'd built." A tiny red light blinked in the corner of my eye. The silent alarm was already doing its job. The phone was upstairs, but I didn't need it to know the police had been notified. Moments later, the distant cry of sirens began to echo, growing louder. Erica stepped toward me, her face soaked with tears, her voice dipping into that calculated softness she always used when she wanted something. "Ryan, please. I just needed a few documents, and some of Mom's jewelry." "Don't," I cut in, sharp and unforgiving. "You broke in," I said. "You smashed a window and came armed. Take another step and I swear." My hand trembled slightly, but I wasn't bluffing. Red and blue light spilled across the walls as the sirens reached the house. In less than a minute, officers stormed in, weapons raised. I immediately lowered the gun, hands lifted, stepping away from the scene. Their eyes scanned the chaos. The shattered window, the crowbar, the two people frozen in shock. One officer narrowed his eyes, clearly recognizing Erica from a previous incident. "Hands in the air!" someone shouted. Erica and Carter complied, pale and stunned. Erica was the first to crack, pointing straight at me. "He's the threat! He shot at us! This is my home too!" One officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, you were legally evicted. You no longer have any legal claim to this property. The entry point is broken from the outside. This is a break-in." Carter jumped in, desperate. "He owes me. He promised to help with school. He's my stepdad." The officer scoffed. "That's not how this works, kid. You don't smash your way in with a crowbar because you didn't get tuition money." Erica screamed as they tried to cuff her, thrashing wildly, black makeup streaking down her cheeks. They forced her to the ground as she kicked and screamed. "Ryan, please, we were just taking back what's ours." I couldn't move. I just stood there as they pulled her to her feet. Her hair was a mess, her eyes blazing. "You'll regret this, Ryan," she spat. "You always had to be in control. You've never changed." Carter said nothing, silent except for his heavy breathing, caught between shame and rage. An officer guided him out the door, and into a waiting squad car. Erica continued her tirade until the car door shut and the shouting finally stopped. Across the street, neighbors peeked out from their windows, their faces bathed in flashing red and blue, whispering behind curtains. It felt like an eternity passed before the officers were done questioning me. I told them I'd fired a warning shot and that I genuinely feared for my life. They examined the house, noted the forced entry, and collected evidence. One of them mentioned I'd probably be called in if the case went to court. I nodded, already emotionally spent. When the last squad car disappeared into the night, Erica and Carter in the back, I stood in my ruined living room, shattered glass at my feet. It was 3 a.m. The air smelled like plaster dust and fear. I looked up at the ceiling, the bullet hole gaping above me, and hugged my arms around myself to keep from trembling. Then, as if out of nowhere, Wesley arrived. Groggy but concerned, he quietly started helping me sweep up the broken glass. "You okay, man?" he asked softly. I gave a slight nod. Couldn't trust myself to speak. I didn't even know how I felt. Not too long ago, I was just a husband stuck in a rocky marriage, arguing over bills with a stepson who never saw me as anything more than an obstacle. Now I'd fired a gun inside my home and watched the woman I used to love be dragged away in cuffs. It felt like something out of a bad dream. By the next day, charges were confirmed. Erica and Carter were both being prosecuted, burglary and unlawful entry for both, and Carter was hit with assault for carrying the crowbar. Erica's history came back to haunt her, with old assault charges now in play. There was talk of a plea deal, but it wasn't likely to help them much. Erica could be looking at jail time or heavy probation. Carter would be saddled with a criminal record. As much as I once cared, that connection had long since eroded. A week later, I was in court for the hearing on the forged loan. The judge ruled in my favor. Erica had to repay the damages and now had a felony forgery conviction. I wouldn't be surprised if she wound up behind bars, though if anyone could wriggle their way out, it was her. As for Carter, college was off the table. I cut him off financially. He pitched a fit, but legally, I owed him nothing. As they were escorted out of the courtroom, Erica turned and threw one final glare my way. "I'll never forgive you," she hissed. "This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.